We'll just skim through. I don't know how far into this it's gonna start. Let's hold the... God damn, how long does it take for them to get started?
That's right, capitalism up again.
No gafties, thank you. No gaps. Thank you for following.
It's the bias response team.
If you've been offended, your feelings must be defended. Freedom of expression is a
Don't you love when people on the right's joke is that, haha, the left cares about other people's feelings. Haha, they should have no empathy like myself.
Comes Antifa Freddy. He's always ready to fight fascism.
Nothing funny about capitalism.
Is fascism when you smash windows, people? That's what fascism is, right?
Starbucks windows don't stand a chance.
MMO addicted. Bah, they reopened schools too soon and we're up to 4,000 from 150 cases a day. Yeah, that'll do it. Antifa Freddy. Honestly, can Antifa Freddy please become a real thing? Can that become a meme? I like me some Antifa Freddy.
He's a systematic racism finder.
Oh no, people actually call me out when I say racist things. They just see racism everywhere. Sure.
Using the powers of screaming and shame, they win every debate by calling your name.
Oh boy, I wish shame worked. If people on the right had
There's
the
nothing funny about the
empathy
tools of
and dignity to
capitalism.
care about how they're viewed by others, then shaming would actually work like a normal human being. MMO addicted with 10 bits. I can't wait for the porn of Antifa Freddy. Yes, please. Antifa Freddy Rule 34, please. His dick should just be like a baseball bat. Like a literal wooden baseball bat that he can just smash windows with.
They're heroes who think that they're victims. Social justice warriors.
I think I've heard more people on the right made jokes about the left being triggered than I've ever heard anyone actually say they're triggered in an unironic context. Like, ever. And this, too. This is friggin' amazing. The Statue of Liberty has been silenced. I agree in the sense that, you know, if the Statue of Liberty had a voice, it'd be like, bring me your starving, your huddled masses. And the right's like, shut up, we don't want to think about that part of American history.
Nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Windchanter. What is CancelCon? I need context. It's some right-wing thing, I think. They're like, oh, we've been canceled, so we're gonna do a CancelCon. Oh god, it's Dennis Prager. I saw him in the up did Dennis. Oh no! Yeah! Oh god, Adam Carolla! Dave Rubin, Ben Sharipo.
All right, people of the internet, this is CancelCon.
Oh god, this is gonna be so cringe. Ooh, look at that like to dislike ratio. Good job, internet.
I'm Dave Rubin, alongside Dennis Prager, Adam Carolla, and Ben Shapiro. You might have heard of these people, possibly, maybe. What we're doing today is a live stream.
Whoever voted for this with that lineup, I love you. Says Antipodian Squid. I don't know about that. Oro the villain, threatening property that is based on wealth and land that was stolen from Africa and Native Americans is not
There's nothing funny
fascism.
about the tools of capitalism.
Says Oro the villain, if I didn't say.
To talk about the No Safe Spaces movie, but more broadly, to talk about the thing that we're kind of all talking about all the time, and I don't mean just the four of us, I mean everybody really in the United States and all over the world. This crushing attack on free speech that you guys...
I said the N-word, and now people on Twitter don't want to buy my products. Cancel culture has gone too far.
not only in the college.
It's hilarious to me that the right, like, is like, oh, cancel culture's out of hand. But also, like,
There's nothing
when
funny
Gillette
about the
makes
tools
an
of
ad
capitalism.
that's like, hey, maybe don't be toxic. They go like, we're never buying Gillette razors again. And oh my God, Nike hired Colin Kaepernick, so we're going to burn our Nikes. And oh my God, the Dixie Chicks said the Iraq
nothing
war
funny
is
about the tools
bad.
of capitalism.
We better cancel the Dixie Chicks. Cancel culture is a weird way to just say the market doesn't want to deal with your bullshit. We live in a free market society, friendo. If you do something that pisses people off, don't be surprised when they don't want to engage with you as either an actor, performer, or if you have a product or something like you're a company. There are several pieces of poop on your screen. Is that TOS friendly? This is literally this, says MMO Addicted.
Hail, brothers. Koronan Sileria Uzumahok. Gentlemen.
Funny.
Campus situation, but all over, in the corporate world, in academia, now in our political world, in the cultural sphere, everywhere, everyone seems to be afraid to say what they think. And
No, they're not. Say what you think. But then when the free market of ideas tells you, hey, you're an a-hole and your opinions are toxic, then that's the answer you get from the market. Why? You can't be like, oh, the free marketplace of ideas, yay. And then when the marketplace of ideas tells you, that's really stupid, and the thing you're saying might also be racist, you go, cancel culture! Children.
found, I think, the last three guys who aren't afraid to say what they think. Gentlemen,
I wish Ben Shapiro was afraid to say what he thought, and Dennis Prager and Dave Rubin. I don't think anyone's cared what Adam Carolla has said for about 20 years, so who cares?
say something controversial right up top. Dennis, what's the most controversial thing that one can say these days?
The most controversial thing, I'll tell you.
He's gonna say, like, I love America. It's controversial for me to say I love America, and it's the greatest country in the world. It's gonna be some
funny about
stupid
the
bullshit
tools of
like that.
capitalism.
Calling it right now. MMO Addicted with 10 bits. I mean, the left has a problem with overt purity testing and gatekeeping, but most of the cases that people like that call cancel culture are bullshit. Sure, that's a different thing, though. Like, purity testing in regard to people on the left isn't the same thing that people on the right call cancel culture. I agree that purity testing on the left shoots the left in the foot a lot, but it's not the same thing as what the right calls cancel culture.
America is a great country.
He literally said, they're so predictable. Dennis, you're allowed to say America's a great country if you want. I don't care. That's fine. But then also, other people are allowed to say, hey, here are problems with America. You can enjoy your country, and this, I think, just confounds people like this. You can like your country and also recognize it has deep-seated issues that need to be dealt with. The two are not incompatible with each other.
I love America. Those are two of the most controversial things one can say. That's how Lincoln was a great man. In other words, any obvious moral statement.
Yes, when people say Lincoln was a great man, all we hear is a crowd of voices saying, but no! For reasons! And you can have, like, a
There's nothing
nuanced
funny
view
about
of
the tools
Lincoln.
capitalism.
Like, having a nuanced view of a historical person because they're a real human being and not some fictional storybook character is the adult thing to do. I can both say,
There's nothing funny
wow,
about the tools
Abraham
of
Lincoln
capitalism.
did great things for this country, and also say, he certainly was a man of his time. He definitely didn't think black people were the same as white people. He has some comments in regard to that. He also suspended habeas corpus. Like, Lincoln did some messed up stuff, but you can absolutely say, like, wow, Lincoln's one of the most influential and best presidents we've ever had. If you feel that way, that's fine. I don't care. But I also think it's the adult thing to do to have a nuanced view of historical characters. Wind Chanter with 30 bits. I am in love with my country. That's why I want to change it for the better. Yeah. Conservatives and I've used this metaphor before, but conservatives view America and love it like they're a 3-year-old and that America is their mommy. Mommy can do no wrong. They're the most perfect, amazing person ever, and they're perfect, and there's nothing else to be said about that. Whereas people on the left tend to, like, love America as, like, a spouse, a partner, someone who, like, you view as a 3-dimensional human being who, like, you care about and want to make better through your relationship with each other. Like, that's a more adult way of viewing your relationship with your country. Not just being like, it's my country, so it's the best. But being like, oh wow, okay, so I'm part of a country, especially in a country where we have representative democracy. So my voice has a meaning here in this country through my vote and through public opinion as a whole. What are the problems that our country has? Because never in the history of the world, even if you love America and think it's a great country, never in the history of the world has there ever been such a thing as a perfect country that functions perfectly all the time. So you can look at injustices or things that you just think could work better in the country, and then you criticize and work to change those things. Acting like America's done, it's cooked, it's ready to come out of the oven, and it never needs any change, is juvenile and ignorant. Random invite. Wait, something can be great and have room for improvement? Heretic. Indeed I am. MMO addicted with 10 bits. There's a proverb here that doesn't translate well, but it goes like this. Patriotism is not my country above all. It's me doing all I can to make it better. Yeah.
Statement regarding the U.S. is controversial. That's how bad things are.
Are you telling me that America was not founded on racism and bigotry and evil?
You know, I wonder.
Straw man argument, Dave. When people are talking about the founding of this country, it's a discussion of great, in many ways, hypocrisy. Because, well, the founding fathers, who, by the way, I'm not going to deify. A lot of people on the right tend to deify the founding fathers. You can talk about them and say, wow, they had a lot of great ideas, but also recognizing that they're human beings. A lot of their ideas were founded in Enlightenment values that believed that liberty was an inalienable right, that each individual person was equal by just the fact that they exist and they are a human being with thoughts and feelings, right? And that's a great value. And I agree that that value in and of itself is something that should be at the core of American ideology. But when we talk about that in regard to the Founding Fathers, you also have to contend with the very real reality that they did not live up to those very ideals. Most of the people who signed the Constitution, or who ratified the Constitution, many of them were slave owners, right? Part of the Constitution at the time, the 3/5 Compromise, literally was about having people enslaved, but also counting them towards the citizenry in regard to the House of Representatives. Like, you have to discuss these things if you're having an adult conversation about the founding of our country. It's these contradictions, right? We believe in liberty and justice for all, but also women can't vote, and black people are slaves. Like, you gotta talk about that. You can't just be like, yay, everything was great after 1789 when the Constitution was ratified. Hooray, America! Because that's not what happened. That wasn't the American experience of a huge swath of the population. It just wasn't.
Do I look at you or the camera? I love looking at you.
Look at me. Look at me for a second, for God's sakes.
So, I always wonder, of the many millions of slaves who came from Africa to the Western Hemisphere, right, North and South America, 3% came to the United States. About 340,000 versus, let's say, 12 million to Brazil.
Hey, bud. The reason that it slowed down in terms of importation of slaves is because America did a thing where instead of expensively importing slaves from Africa, and by the way, saying that only 3% of the millions of slaves that were transported were going to America, not a great argument. Like, imagine if I was like, by the way, on 9/11, the deaths on 9/11 were a very small percentage of the people who actually died on the 11th of September, so why should you care? It's a stupid argument. And secondly, like I was saying, importing slaves from other countries was very expensive. So what they ended up doing was having their slaves, and I say this way because this is how it was, they had their slaves mate to create more slaves. They were literally, oh god, this is in the book Roots, too. One of the ways that Alex Haley traced, who wrote the book Roots, if you haven't either read it or seen the movie adaptations, the way he traced his ancestry back so far was he found someone who owned his family, and then they had a journal, an old journal, that was for tracing two
nothing funny
things:
about the
lineages
tools of
of
capitalism.
horses that they were breeding and lineages of slaves. Slave owners would have slaves mate selectively in order to create more slaves for the plantation. It was disgusting. So the reason that the actual importation of slaves went down over time, even though slavery was a thing until after the Civil War, is because in the United States, slave breeding was a huge business in and of itself. It's really messed up. Iron Q-Bolt. Prager is also deliberately only counting West African slaves. Yeah. Yeah. Is it gonna play? Oh, it muted.
Don't you wonder, why doesn't the left hate Brazil? We got 3% of the Africans who came here, plus in the last 30 years, 3 million Africans, 3 million blacks have come here, 1 million
Maybe don't use that. Maybe don't say it like that, bud.
from the Caribbean, 2 million from Africa, because they know how good it is for a black to live here.
First of all, phrasing. Second of all, the thing about that, bud, is that those people came consensually and freely. Freely being the opportune word. They came here and they weren't in shackles, and when they got here, they weren't forced to go and, like, work in someone's farm field for free for the rest of their life, and then also have the guarantee that their children will be doing the same for the next 300 years. Not the same thing. The word false equivalence doesn't even apply. It's so ridiculous.
So you have to live in a world of lies to accept this depiction of America.
Literally, he's saying here, boy, we sure did enslave Africans and then African Americans for centuries, but boy, they sure should thank us because eventually they were free, and then when they were free, they were in America, the greatest country on earth. Hold for applause. You think Adam Carolla in this moment is going like, oh no, I shouldn't have signed up for this.
Adam, he said that America's good. That was the short version. Can you possibly come up with something more controversial than that? I mean, come on, man.
Well, what no one really wants to hear is you'll either do well here or you won't do well here, and that'll be up to you.
Don't worry, guys. Millionaire Adam Carolla is going to let you know that if you're poor, it's actually your fault. And there are no systemic issues, and everything is your own fault. Don't worry about it. He
Nothing
knows.
funny
He
about
has a
the
bunch of
tools
money.
Capitalism.
Random invite with 10 bits. There's a clip from this with him telling a pretty racist joke, Hannah. I think he knows what he got involved in. Okay, I haven't seen this yet.
The playing field is fairly level, certainly level enough in almost 2021. And it'll never be completely level. It can't be completely level. People that are short have a slight disadvantage. People who are born to this type of family or missing a father in the home, for instance. But this is about as level a society as you can ever have.
Gross. How about this, Adam? How about we provide opportunities for people like college education that is usually gated off to people due to expenses or not being able to get college loans. That'd be good. Not putting people in debt due to trying to better themselves for both themselves and society. That would be a good step. How about providing health care to people? That would help make sure that people have the opportunity to live life in a healthy and productive way. How about that? Weird.
And thus, it is up to you. Now, the people hate that story. Well, you know who hates that story? Children. Children hate that story. Like when you go, hey, if you're getting a bad grade, it's not because the teacher hates you, it's because you're not working hard enough. But now we're dealing with adult children everywhere you look. And this
man got famous doing a show that's entire thing was, I have a penis. Look at these women on bikinis jumping on trampolines. And he's calling other people adult children. Interesting take.
all it is. It's basically taking adolescence and dragging it up into adulthood. And sadly, you know,
There's nothing that grates on me more than some rich asshole who doesn't recognize that, even though I'm sure there are plenty of wealthy people like Adam Carolla. I don't necessarily know that his family was wealthy. I don't think they were. I think he was probably a stand-up comedian that had some sort of talent, at least in the sense that someone found him funny. I don't, but that's fine. There are plenty of comedians that not everyone finds funny. And then he was able to get on something like The Man Show, and he got popular, and he was able to raise money that way. And then he had the capital. He probably has investments and stuff, and that's great, and that's fine. Every talented person does not get what they deserve, which is success, right? So if you are successful, not only did you have to apply your talent well, which I'm sure many people do, but there was also a great amount of luck involved, right? So those people end up getting into success, and then once they're there, they're like, well, I just worked hard. I did my hardest. Everyone else should just do the same, and clearly that'll work out exactly the same for them, when that isn't the case. It's a form of survivorship bias, right? You know how many failed stand-up comedians who are probably just as funny or funnier than Adam Carolla that completely bankrupted themselves trying to get, you know, sets to go and work at, like, the Comedy Store or whatever? I'm sure there's a countless number of them. And it's not necessarily because they weren't funny. It's just that things didn't work out for them, right? The idea that all you have to do is work hard is a fairy tale. It's a children's story. The real story is, yes, you need to work hard in order to be successful, but also a lot of the factors of your success are going to be out of your hands. So what we need to do as a society is try and make sure that we mitigate these negative factors that can impact people's success. Things like making sure people have health care so unexpected disease and accidents can't completely ruin their lives. Making sure that people, if they want to become educated, imply a skill to help both themselves and the societies in which they live, whether they want to go be a doctor or a teacher, or even if it's a trade skill and they want to go learn to be a plumber or an electrician, that they have the opportunity to do so easily and freely. I think that's a brilliant thing for society. So we need to be able to mitigate the factors that hinder people from achieving success through their hard work. Whereas now we have a system where you can work as hard as you want, but if you get effed over by some random chance, you're just effed. You're done. You're done. Fail. You fail, and it's no fault of your own. And that's an untenable system. That's not okay.
talk to people in their 70s who feel this way. My parents are in their 80s, I think they feel this way.
Yeah, Adam Carolla, your parents are baby boomers that were alive during one of the most prosperous periods of any society in human history, and they had union jobs that were in every town where manufacturing was, and you didn't have to have a college education, and wages were higher than they've ever been in American history, and they were able to go and have one person have a job and one person stay at home and watch the kids, and they were able to afford a house and 2 cars, and they were able to go along their merry way and increase, like, their wealth. That's not a thing anymore, Adam. It's just not. Your parents' experiences are going to color their opinions, but their view of how society works today in 2020 is going to be incredibly skewed because they don't have to enter the job market. They don't have to try and get a house in today's market without equity that they've already built for themselves in the past. Like, The idea that America as it exists today exists in the same economic and socioeconomic situation that it did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s is ridiculous. It's not even ignorant, it's just a fantasy.
So, unfortunately, everyone, if you live in this country and you live here during the present time, the onus is on you. If you're not having success, you got to go find a mirror.
So are you saying just because you want something, you can't necessarily have it? Because right now we are in your garage. You've got some pretty sweet cars around here. I mean, I assume that Dennis and Ben and I each can take a car.
Well, most of them have to go back to the prop house before we wrap tonight. Yes, all these cars are things that I've always wanted. I enjoy them now. I loved cars when I was young. I never had any money, so I could never afford to own a car that was nice. As a matter of fact, I work construction, so I was forced to drive a pickup truck.
Do we need to talk about the ethics of someone being so wealthy that while other people literally starve and their children starve and they have no opportunity to help themselves because the social programs that help get people out of poverty in this country have been starved to death by people on the right. Meanwhile, there's someone who, because when they were a kid they couldn't have a car, now they're buying 20 cars. Like, think about that. Society can only accomplish so much at once because there's only so many people working. And this guy, because he has money from doing a stupid stand-up comedy show where ladies would jump on trampolines, which is of great benefit to society, clearly, he's now worked his way into a situation where he can take much more from society than he ever put into it in terms of labor. Like, he has however many cars, and there are people out there who can't get to work because their car broke down 6 months ago and they haven't been able to afford it. Society is all about allocation of resources. And this guy is taking much more from society than he's putting into it. And I'm not saying the arts and stand-up comedy and stuff like that aren't valuable things in society. They absolutely are. And I would never be in a situation where I would say, like, oh, you know, you're doing this thing that I don't think is valuable to society, so you shouldn't get the bare minimum. No. What I am saying is there is 0% chance that Adam Carolla has done enough in his life to warrant the labor and material value of that many cars on top of his mansion, on top of his other assets. It's just bullshit.
Which is really the opposite of one of these cars. So for me, I thought to myself, well, I like these cars. I'm driving a pickup truck. I got to focus, work harder, get better at what I do, and then one day I can have one of these sports cars.
All right, Shapiro. We got Prager saying America's pretty good. We got Carolla saying that hard work has value. Can you beat either one of those? Come on.
Easily. Are you ready for this? This is so easy. Okay. Men are not women.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God. Haha, I did the transphobia. Everyone laugh. Pause for laughter. Did I mention my wife's a doctor?
Oh, well. Okay.
And
Yeah,
the stream has been cut.
You asked for it. I mean, J.K. Rowling's having her books burned.
Yeah.
Right? The only book any of these people have ever read. Right? They should have read like the Bible or any other.
Ben, I don't know if you've read the Bible past the Old Testament. You're a Jewish fella, which is great. Good for you. But, like, why are you promoting reading the Bible when it says that you're going to hell, bud? That's pretty weird, right? Read the Bible, libs. I did, Ben. It says you're going to burn for eternity. What? Oro the villain. I'm transphobic. Ha 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 ha. Have you heard my one joke yet? True. True. I have heard the one joke.
Book, as it turns out the only people they only read Harry Potter, and now they are burning the only book they have ever read because she.
If you care about Harry Potter, it's the only book you've ever read, and it's not because a lot of people have a strong connection to Harry Potter, because as a child, it was a very popular book series that a lot of people connected to on some fundamental level.
Temerity to say that biological sex exists.
This is my least favorite straw man about, like, trans individuals or people on the left talking about trans people like myself. No one is saying biological sex doesn't exist. Ben, my biological sex is male. My gender is female. That's why I'm trans. Do you know what the prefix trans means?
Yeah, this is part of a broader kind of rubric that words have meaning and objective reality exists out.
Words do have meaning. Words that you have failed to understand no matter how many times it's explained to you that gender and sex are different. And the reason that we differentiate is because transgender individuals and non-gender conforming individuals exist. That's a reality. And Ben, I don't know if you've ever heard this tidbit, but facts don't care about your feelings.
Outside of what you wish existed, that your own personal feelings about things actually do not magically take the form of the rest of the world.
I agree, which is why it's weird that you seem to not understand that when we're talking about trans individuals, we're talking about people who are transgender, and that gender is different than sex. This has been explained to you. Yes, Ben, I agree. My biological sex, male. My gender, female. Transgender, I'm transgender. And I agree, Ben, it's not a lot of fun. I would much rather have not been, born with my biological sex not matching my, inner conception of myself and how I feel about my own body and all that stuff. I agree. It's a pain. Trust me. All the meds, not super fun. They cost money. The operations that I'm going to get down the line cost money. It sucks. As it turns out, it's not something I'm doing for fun. It's something I'm doing because if I didn't do it, I would want to die.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that objective reality exists is a tough one. I mean, and this does go to, everything that we're talking about, right? This encompasses, the fact that America is not systemically racist. This encompasses...
Ben. In between Harry Potter and the Bible, you should have picked up a history book. That'd be great.
Is the fact that if you fail in a free country, it's probably your own fault. Not always, but very often it is your own fault if you fail in a free country or you made some bad decisions. And it encompasses the fact that your neighbor is probably not a garbage person. I was talking the other day about the fact that in LA, the only thing that anybody seems to care about is planting these stupid-ass lawn signs that say all of these dumb tautological slogans that mean nothing like what they actually are supposed to mean.
Right, the future is female and also believe in science.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, which, again, is inarguable in one context, but that's not what they mean by Black Lives Matter.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Or water is life, which I was not confused as to why that was controversial. And women's health, women's rights are human rights, and all this kind of stuff. The implication of that entire sign is that the person who lives next to you is a bad person. Yeah. Right? You're a good person. The person who lives next to you is a bad person.
Ben, no. Usually these signs are about, showing support for certain social causes. If I have a sign out in front of my house, which I don't, I'm not big on signs, that says, something like Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean I think my neighbor is a shitbag for not having that.
And it's sort of like this pagan Passover routine, where instead of...
Pagan Passover. Misusing both the terms pagan and the term Passover. Comparing people putting signs for things that they support in their front lawn to smearing lamb's blood on your door in order to save your firstborn from being murdered by Yahweh is some of the most ridiculous hyperbolic speaking I think I've ever heard Ben say, which is saying a lot.
Like painting the blood on your lintel, you take one of these Black Lives Matter signs and you plunk it in your front lawn, and then the social justice warriors pass over your house and move on to the next house to burn it in the name of social justice.
No, Ben, it's because people are like, oh, it's the same reason people put bumper stickers on their car, political or otherwise, that state certain opinions that they hold. It's a thing like, hey, I believe this certain thing. Let me show the world. I also am not a bumper sticker person, unless it's a joke bumper sticker, or something like, oh, I put a TARDIS bumper sticker on my car, or a Millennium Falcon thing. But political bumper stickers, I'm also not a fan of for the same reason. I don't need weird right-wingers key in my car.
The fact is that in objective reality, your neighbor is probably not a bad person. They're probably just as nice a person as you. They're probably a nicer person than you are because they probably don't think that you're a bad person.
It would depend on the neighbor entirely.
And so, you know,
I don't even know my neighbors. Ben, it's 2020. Who the fuck knows their neighbors?
objective reality doesn't always
Nothing
meet
funny
with your
about the
approval.
tools of
So-
capitalism.
And Podium Squid, Hannah has My Other Ride is a TARDIS bumper sticker confirmed. I actually doubt.
One other thing before we jump to the sponsors. Do you guys think it's odd that we're thought of as controversial? I find it very odd that so many people...
you are cracking me up. Do you know, just today, this is weird to hear your thoughts played back to you. Just today I was thinking, I'd like to write a column. I write a column every week that I'd like to write a column. This is what I believe. Why am I called a right-winger?
That would be because you're Dennis Prager, who is a right-winger, and you espouse right-wing talking points and created an entire YouTube channel to spread said talking points. That would be why.
But I was thinking the entire column because I thought, you know, I grew up, it's redundant, as a Jew in New York who went to Columbia. By definition, you're a liberal.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, clearly not, because you're not. You're not.
it's redundant
Yeah.
to say you're a liberal.
And then
No, it's not. Not if you do nothing but espouse right-wing talking points and advocate for right-wing governmental decision-making.
entire sentence was actually just
sorry.
redundant.
Yeah.
A Jew in New York went to Columbia. The rest of the
That's
Yeah,
correct.
you
They're
should have
all
done it
redundant.
quadruply
That's
redundant right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I realize everything that I believed when I was a liberal and a Democrat, I still believe. I know you have this totally.
Yeah, I hear you.
Dennis, are you saying that being a liberal 50 years ago and then holding on to those same exact positions for 50, 40, however many years it's been since you were a liberal, and not changing those positions as society changes around you? Yeah, that's what conservatism is. Conservatism is holding on to views that have passed their expiration date. That's kind of the definition. What's considered liberal in one decade is not necessarily considered liberal 50, 40, 30 years in the future. Goalposts move because the zeitgeist of society moves. Like, if you were a liberal in the 1950s, you would not be considered a liberal today, most likely. I'm using liberal as sort of a word for left-wing, when obviously the word for liberal today more means like center-left. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I should use the word progressive. If you were a progressive in the 1950s, you probably would not be considered that by today's standards, because our standards continually improve over time in terms of acceptability and openness and policy making. This is just a right-wing circle jerk, isn't it? Yeah, we're almost done with it. There's no way we're watching this whole thing. We're already 20 minutes in.
And it's every one of those beliefs is now called right wing. I didn't change. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Thus making you a conservative. Good job knowing the definition of words.
The liberals have accepted the left lie that conservatism is their enemy when leftism is the enemy of liberalism.
Yeah. Corolla, when you were doing the Man Show and comedy and all that stuff, did you ever think of yourself as controversial?
No, I've always just had opinions, and I believe them to be true. And, you know, I formed a lot of my
That's how opinions work, Adam. Good job.
opinions because I did a show called Loveline, a syndicated radio show and a TV show, and I spoke every night to screwed up teenagers around the country. And
Which is also redundant.
Right, right. Teenagers around the country. But I would, for every night for a decade, I would just hear the problems of 15-year-olds and sort of where they came from. And it was always like, I could tell when the dad wasn't there. I could tell when there was this issue or that issue. At a certain point, you can hear it in their voice. The thing
Adam saying, I'm stereotyping people, and I have no confirmation that my stereotypes were true, but I believe them strongly, and therefore, facts do care about my
There's
feelings.
nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Wing the Ultimate Nug, thank you for subscribing with a 4-month streak.
What's kind of interesting is you can physically hear the tone and almost diagnose what their problem is. And so I formed my opinions long ago just hearing all the screwed up teenagers, all the broken families, all the rebellion, and all the ills of society. And I realized, oh, it all just starts at home. And so I just started saying family.
And Adam, do you recognize that home situations are informed by the society in which those families are? So, like, if we're talking about the African American community and how there's a higher instance of single mothers, do you understand how that can be informed by the policy-making decisions that are happening in the society in which those people reside? The war on drugs, poverty in general affecting African Americans more so than it does white communities. These things inform family dynamics. I don't know if you know that.
Education, family and education will cure everything with family and education. And then all of a sudden that became hate speech.
Yeah.
Which
If we're talking about education, I agree that education is important, Adam.
There's
We
nothing
should
funny
stop
about the
funding
tools of
schools with
capitalism.
property taxes, which benefits white communities over black communities, because, again, statistically, there are more white communities with higher property taxes than black communities because we have systematic issues in this country that have led to black people in this country tending to live in more insular communities with lower property values. Tucker White 94. I like Adam Carolla, but is he just going to leave out how his co-host, Dr. Drew, gave advice to these teens while he took money from pharmaceutical companies to shill certain drugs? I didn't know about that. I haven't even heard that he had some kind of radio show.
is, by the way, I said everything I say now into a microphone all through the 90s and early 2000s, and no one said boo.
Yeah. Did sixth grade Ben Shapiro, when he was playing the violin, ever think that it was going to cost $600,000 worth of security to speak at Berkeley, the home of free speech?
I'm a frightening character, and I always have been. So, as everyone who knows me knows, supremely obnoxious. So I actually did think that there was a high likelihood that would happen, just out of pure
At least he knows he's obnoxious. That's good.
hatred. But at the same time, it is. Basically, the way you know you're controversial is because the New York Times calls you controversial. What I mean by that is that they only attach that modifier to people who have typically kind of mainstream, middle-of-the-road views.
What?
And then everybody else who has crazy left-wing views is just inspiring or interesting or heterodox. But if you're controversial, that's how we know you're right-wing. That's the only modifier they'll ever attach to you. So it's not that I'm right-wing and therefore I'm controversial. It's that they called me controversial and that's how I know that I'm right-wing.
Yeah.
Right? They attached that adjective to me and that's how I know that I must be conservative because they've called me controversial. And like everybody else here,
Or it's because all of your right-wing positions? Probably that one.
I cannot for the life of me understand why any of these propositions that biological men and women are different, that men and women generally have some differences, that America is an extraordinarily good place. And by the way, the best place in 2020 for any ethnically black person to live on planet Earth. By far. It is not close in terms of
Oro
income,
the
in terms
villain,
of freedom,
thank
in
you for
terms of
hosting.
rights, in terms of legal protections. It is really not particularly close. None of these should be controversial statements, but
I feel like Canada would be better. Probably Canada.
because the media have deemed
I think that's also true for white people, though, because in Canada, if you get cancer, it's not gonna, bankrupt you immediately.
anything they disagree with controversial, they become
Capitalism.
MMO addicted with 10 bits, maybe because you can defend your positions when lightly probed by a conservative journalist you're screeched at and he is a biased leftist. Yeah, I remember when Ben did that.
controversial. And this is why, and we all know this, right? You know this, Dave.
Yeah.
Dennis and Adam, you know this too.
nothing funny
When
about
people
the
actually
tools of
listen to your
capitalism.
show, they will come up to you
Tucker White 94, just about everything Ben Shapiro just said warrants a citation needed. Yeah, Ben should just, have a sign on him at all times that says, citation needed.
after a show, and they'll say, but wait, I thought that you were super controversial, right? I thought that you were super hateful and you were super radical. Like, I didn't hear any of that. So I would go and speak at Berkeley, $600,000 to protect me. I'd say a bunch of stuff.
Ben, if you legitimately paid over $500,000 for security to go speak at a college, you are a psychopath, and you spent you got scammed. Who pays over $500,000 for protection for, one day?
That seems fairly basic. And people would come up afterward from the left and be like, I don't understand why it costs $600,000. Like, I don't either. right? It's just because they've decided that if you disagree with the general kind of democratic left view of the world, then you are inherently controversial.
For the record, I did not know that I was a right-winger until the New York Times put my face on the cover. I believe you were on there with me, and you were on there with me.
Imagine having so little self-awareness that you're Dave Rubin and you don't know you're a right-winger, despite the things that you espouse. And, like, he's admitted at this point, I'm a conservative, so he knows now. His positions haven't really changed as much as he's just admitting what he is. So how can you have that little self-awareness of your position until someone else points out to you, by the way, have you noticed you're a right-winger? That's so weird to me.
Adam, I don't think you made it, about YouTubers leading people to the alt-right, and then my dad had to call me on a Sunday, son, are you leading the alt-right? I mean, I literally got
And
that
Dave
call.
was like, and I'm gay. Anyway, happy Easter.
Yeah, good luck with that. All right. I want to thank our sponsors, the Young America's Foundation, YAF, YAF, and the good people at the Capital Research Center who are helping us put this whole thing together. By the way, guys, you may be watching this on nosafespaces.com. That's actually the safest space to be watching it, because if you didn't hear
The irony.
about the controversy of the last couple days, the guys who put the film together were trying to put ads on Facebook. And as far as I know, Facebook is a company that perhaps wants to make some money, except they didn't want to take money from these guys. Facebook decided that they did not want to take, I think, roughly around 10 grand in advertising funds.
That's like a drop in the bucket for Facebook, but yeah, I get it.
Because they did not want people to see this movie. So if you might be watching this on the Facebook page, but we're most likely watching on nosafespaces.com or on the No Safe Spaces YouTube page, which doesn't that kind of prove the point of the film, guys, that big tech maybe isn't our friend? Is that possible? Do you think maybe, Dennis, that big tech is not our friend, is not the friend of Prager?
Have you considered the fact that a vampire company like Facebook, which has allowed anti-vax and QAnon to go unabated for years, they recently banned QAnon, only very recently, like in the past week recently, and yet they told you no. Imagine how shitty of a person you have to be for Facebook to tell you no, we don't want your money. Tucker White 94. I know this is off topic, but for all the money these guys get, there's no excuse for the sound to be this shitty. Yeah, I'd imagine it's hard to get competent workers to come and work for you when you're, assholes. MMO Addicted with 10 bits. Sound quality comparable to early Bible Reloaded with an infinitely higher cost. My inner auditor smells tax evasion.
Prager, you?
I wrote an open letter to, what's the...
We'll be done with this soon. I know this has been going on for a while.
The guy's name came from the Soviet Union.
Let's start skipping around and see if we can find something funny.
Guys will destroy you, and it worked. Scientology worked for a long time. I mean, everyone kind of knew the rap on Scientology, but they were effective because the deal was they will ruin your life if you speak up. But now enough people have spoken up, and the boogeyman has gone away. Your life isn't ruined.
Is he comparing the left to Scientology or something?
You can speak freely. And this kind of reminds me of the same kind of period, which is do not speak up. You are going to have your life ruined. But the more people that speak up, the easier it is for other people to speak up. And as it turns out, they don't really ruin your life. They don't have nearly the power you thought they had or that you gave them. Really is what happened, is we gave away too much power to...
Adam, no one's telling you literally can't say what you want. Say whatever you want. I don't care. I do care. But, like, if you're an a-hole, which it seems like you are, and you espouse talking points that are ignorant and damaging to other people have their freedom of speech right to call you out on it. And they also have the freedom to not partake in any product that involves you from then on. That's fine. You don't have to care about it. If you don't care that they're not listening to you or that they're criticizing you, that's also fine. Everyone has the right to, call people out on their positions. That's part of people's free speech. Winch Chanter with 50 bits. Had to pull a QAnon poster out of the ground in my own neighborhood. It was really well made, except for all the disinformation all
There's
over
nothing
it.
funny about the tools
That was
of
ballsy.
capitalism.
That was real ballsy of you. Tucker White 94. How long until Godwin's law is invoked? There's no way they're not going to compare themselves to... There's no way they're not going to compare themselves to living in Nazi Germany. Oh yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Too
Nothing
few
funny about the
who
tools of
didn't.
capitalism.
Cats are neat too. I'm not sure where it is, but at one point Dave complains about not being able to use the N-word in
Care
jokes
for
anymore.
us or the country.
Yikes. Let me see if I can find, like, I couldn't find a supercut of this. What is this called? Cancel con cringe. No, that's just... Okay, we have... I can't watch Vosh's thing, because he's banned on Twitch. There's someone reacting to the whole thing. Saddest boys. The Surfs did a thing on it. Let's see what Lance had to say.
Son, what if I told you you were going to compete in a spelling contest with an Indian kid? You'd go, oh crap, I'm going to get slaughtered. What if I
Even Dennis Prager's face is like, oh no. Oh no!
told you that kid was American Indian? And
Wow. When your racist joke is too racist for the racist friends you have. Damn, son. That one was a swing and a miss.
There's nothing
God
funny
damn.
about the tools
Not only
of
was there not even like awkward laughter, there was just that weird pause, and then Dave Rubin in the corner. I get it. On this thing on the
I'm sure you guys already have, but the Surfs, great. Lance does an amazing job and streams decently often. A lot of days of the week. So definitely, if you haven't checked out Lance before, go to the Surfs. I'm sure you have, though. A lot of my viewers come from the Surfs, so I'm sure most of you already know. He's on right now? Okay, cool. Welcome back, Baha. That's the racist joke you were talking about? Yeah.
the racism harvester, all right? Just why you say like god damn. I think his head just shrunk. Somewhere.
Yeah, I'll give my quick answer and then we'll throw to a clip. But, you know, I gave an answer that was an offshoot of something that I heard you say once, Bennett, to a college kid. Because every gig that I go to at a university, that's always the first question is I'm afraid to not get the grade. I want to get out of here. I want to be able to go to grad school. I want to get the job, the whole thing. And I used to kind of say something like, well, you know, you could just suck it up for now. That way you can get into the grad school that you want and you hopefully do it. And I said that a few times and I never, it felt thin to me after, you know when you say something that's not quite right and you just don't feel right after. And then of course I was on tour with Jordan and he was always talking about how you have to say the truth. And I thought, all right, I have to give a better answer here, a more evolved answer. And I started saying to him, you must speak up now. You will never be braver than when you're 18, 19 years old to say what you think. And yeah, is your friend, maybe a friend's gonna turn on you, your professor may turn on you, whatever it is. But you don't suddenly, people think.
Getting right-wing college students to flunk out to own the libs. I'm sure that'll go well.
Now is where
14-year-old son is over there.
Does he know how much time he has left?
Yeah, hey, you'll never see your 26th birthday. Now get daddy another cold one.
Integration to happen.
having to lose a little bit
I
of
think
purity.
too, we love it for another reason. And I'm totally with you on that.
Why'd they call this cancel con when it's literally just like them speaking in front of a camera?
$100 or $1,000 if you got a couple kids to go to a game.
Multiple cameras.
To have a bunch of people making $8 million a year lecture you about things. That's just a bizarre thing. I think we're going to jump over to Texas A&M. We're going to talk to the students at Texas A&M. I think we're going to take a couple questions if we can hear them. Let's see what's going on over in Texas A&M.
Oh, maybe I need to set up the shout out command. Sorry about that. I'll try and set it up before next stream.
A&M.
Cut.
Possibly.
Okay,
There we go.
Okay,
All right, guys, what's
we have
going-
some other people. Oh no. Oh no. Oh god. What is this? Texas A&M. Texas A&M University. How many students? Okay, Texas A&M has 68,000 students. It says. Totally enrolled. This is the number of conservatives they could get to show up for this. That's kind of embarrassing, but okay.
What's going on?
Doing pretty good.
I'm not sure if Jake's streaming. I haven't heard from
What's
him
on your
today.
mind?
It's the Republican Club. The Republican Club has the same microphone as me. I just have a sock and a purple thing on it. Everyone has this mic, though. It's the if you go to a Best Buy, this is the mic they have.
Who are we talking to? What's her name? Yeah.
Yeah.
You,
Go for
dude.
it. Have you
Yeah.
a question, sir?
You're up.
Any questions? Yeah. So, what do you think, as conservatives, how do we fight the culture war?
Let's see. Let's look at this crowd. Okay. Just trying to see. Wow. Okay. All white people. I'm not super shocked, I guess, but okay. We got one conservative with purple hair. That surprises me. Normally they make fun of people with unnatural hair colors.
When it's
There's
already
nothing funny about the tools
I
of
mean, it
capitalism.
seems like it's already
Tucker White 94. I'm willing to bet the Texas A&M Anime Club has more members than the Republican group of dorks.
lost at this
Probably
point. I mean,
true.
The left has so much domination of our media and our sports.
And our
How
sports.
do we even try to start that backlash in the culture war when it seems like there's just too much that they have under their control?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because it's sort of an offshoot of what you were just talking about, that it's not just you go to an NBA game and it's Black Lives Matter, but you open up Apple TV and there's a message of social justice. Literally, you go to Uber Eats and they tell you to go to these black-owned businesses.
Lululemon was
oh.
advertising resist capitalism. The
Lululemon,
white
which
yoga
is worth,
pants ladies.
how much are they worth? Something
like
Oh no. Not patronizing. What's the word? Is it patronizing? I'm not sure. Oh no, giving money to black-owned businesses? The horror.
several. What is it? $60 billion?
Yes.
Something crazy.
they sell $150
Patroning,
leggings, and they
yeah.
were talking
For
about
wealthy
resisting,
white women, and they resist
resisting
capitalism.
Yeah, it's
Capitalism
actually
always
incredible.
wins, gang.
But his question is sort of an offshoot of what Ben was saying, which is that once this thing has leaked everywhere, what do we have to do? It's not even right-leaning people. I don't like calling this conservative.
The important thing
Yeah.
I want to say to you at Texas A&M, I don't know of a war in history in which the victor was certain of victory at every moment of the war. I don't think such wars exist. It wasn't true for...
I'm getting banned off Twitter, and people are saying mean things about me. This is the same as a war, guys.
for Washington, certainly. Read about Israel.
The thing about conservatism, and I really wish conservatives would understand this, it is by definition a losing position. By definition, being a conservative is a losing position. Never in the history of the world in the long term. We've of course had times when conservative positions oh, screw democracy, let's just have a dictator, where that has become to power. And I'd argue we have another period in time right now with ultra right-wing people like Donald Trump getting voted into office, not only here in the US, but you have Boris Johnson in the UK as the prime minister being selected by his party. I get that. That's happening. But in the long run, conservatism always loses because society always changes. And society always, in the history of the United States, over time, has always swung towards more openness, more understanding, more inclusiveness. It takes time and pain and work, but it does happen. I think Martin Luther King Jr. said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And as cynical as I might be, I think inherently there's some truth to that statement. If you are a conservative today, let's say you're a conservative in the 60s, in the 80s, you already lost. You already lost just by virtue of being a conservative, because positions that were even liberal back then are now considered conservative. Society is a treadmill. And the zeitgeist of society is consistently taking people and the positions that won't move with society and its zeitgeist and chucking them out the back, right? Even liberal positions. Again, someone who was liberal in the 60s, someone who was progressive in the 60s, if you put them today in 2020 and they had changed absolutely none of their positions, they might be a conservative, if not economically, then socially. It's just how the world works. So even I'm very left-wing. I consider myself a progressive and a leftist, right? I'm very progressive. But if I refuse to change my positions in the future for whatever thing is going to happen, then it's entirely possible that I will slowly, as time moves on, and where the center is, changes with that zeitgeist, it's possible I would slip into... First, probably, here I'm at leftist. It's possible I could slip into liberal, and then centrist, and then center-right, and then right-wing if I never change my positions, because I have no idea what the future's going to bring and what new information we're going to learn about society that's going to cause us to shift our view on certain things in regard to justice and acceptance and people that need to have certain rights, right? So that's why you need to keep yourself open to that and understand that I might feel that I am open and progressive and understanding today, but that is something that I need to continually work on, right? Otherwise you get stagnated. You stagnate and you get passed by society. Conservatives are already starting out at a position where they're on the point where their positions are already on the way out, and they're saying, no, I'm planting my feet here and I will win. And never in the history of the world has that worked out for someone in the long term.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Robot marriage, I don't care. If someone wants to get married, if there was a robot that like literally had like an internal like thought, if it was alive, if it was sentient and sapient, I don't care. I think that any being that has sentience and sapience counts as life. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to have self-aware robots anytime in our lifetimes, so it's not something I'm probably going to have to contend with. But if it was, I would be on the right side of history. Shocker. Tucker White 94, exactly, Hannah. Look at Abraham Lincoln. His views on black suffrage would be the furthest thing from progressive by present standards. Yeah. Lincoln, who again, for his time, incredibly progressive. I agree. There are tons of things to praise Lincoln for. He was incredibly progressive for his time, and he worked tirelessly to keep the Union together and eventually, in the war, to end slavery. But even he had statements where he'd say, like, of course, in no sense is the African American, that wasn't the word he used, but the African American, he says, in no sense is the African American equal to the white man, but that doesn't mean they should be enslaved, basically. That's not a progressive opinion by today's standards. Very, very far from it. But, like, in his time he was progressive, but if he could somehow live to today and he never changed his opinions, he'd be an incredibly backward individual. This is always the case. You gotta keep expanding, like, what you understand, otherwise you're gonna get left in the dust. MMO addicted. By my country's measures, I'm a far leftist, but by U.S. measures, I am a weird amalgam of leftist and liberal. Yeah, and these things aren't black and white either. Like, a left-right dichotomy with, a center isn't gonna be super representative of political positions because it's more complicated than that. Even, like, the chart where you have, authoritarian, libertarian, conservative, progressive. I don't know which way it is with you guys. Sorry, I'm not thinking about the camera being backwards. Even that's a simplification, right? But it's just a way of understanding stuff. I'm sure there'll be political developments in our lifetimes that fundamentally don't fit into the paradigm we are familiar with, but then the way we look at it will change nonetheless. Still, you can look at people who are generally progressive in that they look at, like, new information and say, okay, this is something that will change in society, but will change it for the better. And then you have people who are conservatives who are like, no, everything's fine, everything's perfect as it is, stop changing.
They were surrounded by countries that were dedicated to exterminating it. That's why it's considered sort of a miracle that they won in 6 days. I mean, read about any war. Were the guys who stormed Normandy certain of victory? I mean, you know,
Posting on BitChute is literally the same thing as landing on the beaches of Normandy and shooting Nazis in the head.
Spielberg's movie, what is it, Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan, you see the guys, understandably, peeing in their pants.
Yeah.
No war is won on the basis of we'll win at every moment. You know, you have tens upon tens of millions of people in America who know that the left is a completely destructive force. You are not alone.
Not the majority, though. Funny how that works.
You may feel alone at any given university. You may feel alone turning on sports, but you're not alone. And the more they make you think that, and thereby despair and keep quiet, then they can win. But if you don't think that way and fight back, we will win.
Should we jump to another school? Yeah, we're going to jump over to Cal State, Los Angeles. Here in Los Angeles, Shapiro's leaving you. We're staying.
Oh, no. Also, it bothers me a lot. This happened September 17th. All these people are going to catch COVID. They should not have done this. Oh, God.
Suckers.
All right, guys. There we go. You guys got a question for us?
We sure do.
Reagan in Washington.
They have a
there.
giant.
Oh, he's got a Reagan head. Oh, how many people are in this club? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Reagan head.
7.
What's going on down there, guys? How's university life these days?
Oh, it's going well. Other than
Constant debate whether it was the students that brought state to accomplish things. Think you might be on mute.
Because he was speaking Chinese. That's how insane things have become. But I think this is I actually am optimistic about this part of the culture because the left is so humorless and so obnoxious.
That's true. That's why Jake wears his business corn suit and he never makes jokes ever. Me too. It's why I take this very seriously and never wear stupid hats. We have no sense of humor.
Unbelievably boring, like crazily boring, to the point where you see mainstream comedians who are certainly not on the right, who have started to decry comic cancel culture. You started to see it from people like Aziz Ansari. You're seeing it from Dave Chappelle. Right? These are people who are certainly not on the political right, and they're starting to get annoyed with it. And they should be annoyed with it because the left, I have a theory, and that it's that the left was always humorless, but I think Trump absolutely killed comedy. I think Trump's election.
I agree. Trump killed satire. How do you satirize Donald Trump? Right? You can't. It's already peak ridiculousness. How do you heighten the ridiculousness of Trump without it just coming off as farcical? Like you're I really don't know.
That someone might
Ted
disagree,
Cruz.
that someone might not, and stupid.
Is Ted
and
Cruz
I
like their
was
headliner?
out with
He's
the microphone
last.
That we will be able to maintain.
Politically correct diversity that they hate is diversity of.
All right, that's enough of CancelCon. That's some embarrassing stuff right there, but it is very funny. Speaking of hats, yours is awesome. Thank you. Antipodian Squid with 10 bits. Shapiro whining about the left not having a sense of humor and yet didn't understand the satire behind WAP. Yeah. Hannah is so humorless that this emote never happened. True. That emote, completely false. Never happened. Just canceled CancelCon. Look at that ratio. Lovely. Very funny, though. At least they're not censoring the comments. That's nice. All right, so it's time for another poll.